Tonight, the Chief Medical Officer joins us live for the latest on protocol and monitoring of BA Flight 253 passengers. Plus, a report from the Office of the Ombudsman reveals serious concerns over conditions at the Police Detention Centre. And more details tonight on CUC's latest energy generation bid. I'm Shanna Gallego. Compass News starts right now. We continue our coverage tonight of health concerns linked to Friday evening's cancelled British Airways Flight 253. The London to Cayman flight was grounded in the Bahamas after authorities identified 2 passengers with potential health concerns following recent travel to the Democratic Republic of Congo. All passengers were removed from the aircraft as a precaution. The 2 individuals of concern were then placed in isolation. Officials say they are clinically stable and not showing any symptoms of Ebola. The flight was rescheduled for Saturday, and public health officials here say they are now monitoring a small group of passengers. Those passengers arrived in the Cayman Islands and underwent additional health screening on arrival. We caught up with one passenger on the flight. Here's what she had to say.
When we arrived, obviously all the ground staff had masks on, which is understandable. It's a small island, you want to protect it, and I don't blame them for that. But they were still lovely with us. And then when we got off the plane, we was held in a big line before we could enter into the airport itself. If we'd had any symptoms over the night, give us a card and said if you get any of these within the next 24 to 48 hours, then you need to contact us. They took our names, checked us on the travelling list and everything like that. They was very good, got us through as quickly as possible. Before we took off from Heathrow, there was no communication with Nasser Airport and the staff in there. It was utter chaos. Cayman, brilliant. As soon as we landed, they was telling us what they was going to do before we entered the airport. They told us exactly what was happening and that everything was safe, that we were okay. But obviously they need to protect the island, which we know that. We all went through COVID, so we can understand that.
Now, the local health authorities say they will continue to monitor individuals in the days and weeks ahead in line with established protocols. Officials stress the risk of Ebola to the Cayman Islands remains very low. To help break down the local efforts taken is Chief Medical Officer Dr. Hilary Wolf. Dr. Wolf, thank you so much for being with us this evening.
My pleasure. Happy to be here.
All right, let's start first with the latest on the passengers from the BA flight. You might have heard just now an interesting account, but thorough account as well of that experience. What can you tell us about the latest?
Yeah, I think it was very accurate. Everyone was brought off the plane. People who had not been on the plane on May 22nd, the BA flight, they were let to go in the regular processes to the immigration process. Those who were, we just wanted to make sure that we had all of their contact information correct. We had given a QR code in advance for everyone to fill out their passenger information. So we were just checking to make sure we had gotten that. And then once we did, there was a select few, as you mentioned, of passengers who were near the people who were on the original plane, and they were just marked for enhanced surveillance, and all that meant was that we were asking them if they have any specific symptoms related to Ebola, like fever, weakness, headache, things like that. If they've all said no, and our plan is to continue to follow up with them every day until either the results come back negative from the 2 passengers who were taken off the plane in the Bahamas, or the full 21 surveillance day period.
And Dr. Wolf, you mentioned the process, which I believe was pretty smooth, and given the account, it was very standard, one would say, in terms of the health steps being taken to safeguard the passengers and the community. Take us through that just a little bit more.
Sure. I think we wanted to take a measured approach. We didn't want to create fear, or this is a very different disease than COVID is.
It is.
This is not spread by droplets or respiratory. You have to really be sick with Ebola to be able to pass it, and it has to actually be passed through mucous membranes or open wounds. And so it's not like, and this is really only occurring in the Democratic Republic of Congo. This is not widespread across the world.
Got it. Are there any concerns for contraction of illness? You mentioned it's quite isolated in a sense of how it's done, but are there any concerns?
The risk is incredibly low to contract illness on a plane in a situation like this. Really our recommendation is not to travel to DRC. That would be our strong recommendation. If you were to travel to DRC, you would want to make sure that you are not around people who could be infected with Ebola. You don't want to partake in burial practices where you're touching dead bodies of people who could have died from Ebola. You don't want to be eating like meat from bats and various things in the bush. But the recommendation ultimately is don't travel, and the risk of contracting Ebola on a plane is incredibly low because you have to be very ill, and most of those people wouldn't actually be flying. And even if someone is on the plane, the way that they would transmit it would be quite rare. You would have to actually get infected through mucous membranes.
Got it. Dr. Wolf, I want to squeeze this last question in. What advice would you give to those that may be feeling stressed or just having anxiety over this situation?
I can understand that it's scary. You've lived through COVID. You don't want to see that happen again. I think just taking a measured approach and recognizing that all viruses are very different and that this one is in a very different situation than what we were in previously. And we're taking the enhanced precautions. We're working internationally with the WHO, CARFA, PAHO to make sure that we are in constant communication. We're aware of what's coming into our borders, but we also don't want to turn people away for no reason.
Got it. All hands on deck for this. We love that. We have to leave it there for now. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Hilary Wolf, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
The Office of the Ombudsman has released its report on conditions at the Cayman Islands Detention Centre. As Mark Weston finds out, the investigation was launched late last year in response to a number of concerns.
The Office of the Ombudsman received several reports from the police and from members of the public about things that were going on at the Cayman Islands Detention Centre.
In May 2025, Ombudsman Sharon Rolston launched an own motion investigation into the detention centre. It uncovered several issues including prisoner injuries, attempted self-harm, and security failures such as doors being left ajar.
Those findings were reported and also reported in summary form to the public in early October 2025. And then the police responded to the initial 18 recommendations from those findings. They were included in the final report in addition to 12 additional findings, and that was released to the Parliament in March of 2026.
The report was tabled in Parliament, meaning it was formally presented to the House, and was also made public by the Office of the Ombudsman. Some recommendations include improving communication between the police service and the Health Services Authority, more frequent welfare checks on detainees, and a greater need for translators. The report also highlights understaffing as an ongoing issue at the detention center.
The police were not shy about admitting that the place was understaffed. There were also a number of areas the report identified where additional training on specific methods of detention policing were needed. So I think those were key issues.
Fuller says the RCIPS were excellent in their response to the initial 18 recommendations made in the report, and he has confidence they will follow suit with the remaining recommendations. For Compass News, I'm Mark Weston.
The search is on for 52-year-old wanted man Al Handel Pearson. Police are appealing for the public's help to locate the Georgetown man. Pearson is wanted for breach of bail and for tampering with an electronic monitor in relation to an armed robbery charge. Pearson is described as about 5 feet 9 inches tall, dark complexion and bald. Officers say he should be considered dangerous and should not be approached. Anyone who sees Pearson is being asked to make note of his location and contact 911 immediately. Police are also encouraging anyone with information about his whereabouts to contact the Georgetown Police Station. Now, time to check in with Simon Boxall for a quick weather preview.
Thanks, Shanda. Good to see you back. Well, we're going to see the wind pick up a little bit tomorrow. With that, we're going to have a small craft advisory in effect, 4 to 6 foot seas. Could see a little shower or two tonight and some possible thunder, and that could continue a little bit tomorrow morning. We've got a lot more news and weather after the break, so please stay with us.
More tonight on CUC's commitment to invest $500 million in Grand Cayman's energy infrastructure. Philip Richter explains the bidding process and how the project ties to government's renewable energy goals.
Earlier this year, Cayman's energy regulator put 2 projects out to bid, one for 94 megawatts of new power generation and the other, a 22.5 megawatt solar plant. Caribbean Utilities Company Chief Financial Officer, Letitia Lawrence, says if successful, the utility provider will be investing $500 million US.
And we expect once those two projects are completed, there's also the potential for future investment in other renewable energy projects as well.
If CUC doesn't win the bids, the company says there's still a path forward.
In all likelihood, there will be another party who can construct and produce a project at a lower cost than we would. We would be contracting with that third party, a power purchase agreement, and we would be purchasing power from that other party. But again, we would expect it would be at a lower cost than what we would be able to produce that energy for.
The solar plant will be the biggest renewable energy project in the Cayman Islands and considered a major step towards government's goal of having 30% renewable energies by 2030.
Those targets are entirely achievable if the pace of progress continues that we've seen recently. So as long as there are no further delays in the procurement process, we do believe that it's entirely achievable by the target date.
Currently, 3% of Cayman's energy is generated from renewable energy. A winning bidder is expected to be announced in the third quarter of 2026. Reporting for Compass News, I'm Philip Richter.
The Department of Agriculture is keeping a close eye on avian flu more than 6 months after the island's first confirmed case turned up in November. Senior Veterinary Officer with the DOA, Dr. Tiffany Chisholm, says testing continues with the department, working alongside the Department of Environment and Environmental Health. The government moved to add avian flu to the list of notifiable diseases under the Public Health Act back in December.
We've continued surveillance. I'd say we're averaging probably testing probably between 6 to 8 suspected cases a month. All of those samples are processed through our local lab at the HSA, and all of them have since been negative. We continue to be encouraging some biosecurity protocols across the island, especially with the farmer groups, and encouraging that for sure as the primary baseline in preventing any further cases in the future.
Now, anyone who spots a suspected case or is looking for more information, you can get in touch with the Department of Agriculture directly.
Currently 84 degrees here in the capital. It's mostly dry at the moment. We did have pretty good rain across parts of West Bay at the end of the morning around midday. It was a good downpour there. Mostly dry though at the present time, as I said. Wind coming out of the southeast at 15 miles an hour. Gusting though as high as 24 miles an hour. Currently our local weather radar is down. They said there's a minor issue with it, and hopefully it'll be back up soon. You can see these scattered showers. There's this trough of low pressure over the Gulf of Honduras, and that's increasing the shower activity around the Cayman area at the present time. And you can see some of that moisture down here in the southern part there below Panama and Colombia and places like that, extending up as well a little bit underneath Mexico there. Also some fairly disturbed weather across parts of the southern US. But around Cayman at the present time, as I said, just a few scattered showers, some thunder associated with those rain showers that we're seeing. Now there is this area of moisture to the south of us, as I said, that could be putting up towards us over the coming days. Towards Saturday, Sunday, we'll see an increase in moisture. Some of the YouTubers are suggesting it could be forming into the first named storm of the hurricane season. That would be Arthur. I think they're overplaying it a little bit, even the ones that are saying it's a no hype channel. I think it's unlikely that's going to form. And in fact, the National Hurricane Center is suggesting no tropical storm or tropical cyclone activity is expected over the coming 7 days at the present time. Of course, we'll keep an eye out on that, though. Quite a bit of thunder and flooding around Dallas today. Number of flight cancellations. Also Atlanta experienced quite vigorous thunder as well today. Tonight's forecast dropping down 81 degrees, wind coming out of the east-southeast, 13 miles an hour. We're likely to see a shower, but possibly right after midnight tonight, and also could have a bit of thunder with it. Tomorrow, 85 degrees, going to feel a good bit warmer. That wind coming out of the east at 15 miles an hour, gusting quite high though. As I said, we're going to have a small craft advisory going into effect. Seas are going to be quite rough, so we need to be careful out there on the water. You can see that wind coming out of the east, so it's going to be calm, fairly calm on the west side. We are going to see fairly long period swells, so be careful if you're going out of the channels on the south side in particular. Could be quite dangerous with those 4 to 6 foot seas, so that will likely continue into Wednesday. There is a little bit of a emergence of dust coming across from Africa. It's unlikely really to affect us again. It's going to pull up a little bit as it approaches the Cayman Islands on Thursday and Friday, but we will let you know if we are getting a higher concentration of dust in the atmosphere around the Cayman Islands. Rain in the forecast for the next couple of days. Again, isolated showers, still lots of sunshine. Should be beautiful. We're going to see an increase, as I said, in the rain as we approach the weekend. You can see yesterday a little bit of rain. It's beautiful when that rain is coming across the sea. And this boat is just putting out towards the North Sound to enjoy the stingrays yesterday. Again, shower or two, and then it brightens up and it becomes beautiful. And with that, let's check in with Seaford Russell Jr. on the sports desk.
Well, Simon, there is a new swimming scholarship for Caymanians around now. I'll tell you all about that, plus more in sports next to Glenn. Our Stingray Swim Club has launched a new Caymanian swimmer scholarship which is now open for applicants. The scholarship allows students within government schools between the ages of 6 to 18 years old who are able to swim unassisted to join Stingray Swim Club as an athlete member free of charge. Head coach of the club and former national athlete John Bodden said he is happy to give back to Caymanians in a sport that helped him.
Sport might be difficult to enter in general, so if you have that opportunity, it's there for you. For me, at least, it's super important just because you're giving back resources to the same community that's helped you before. So in that regard, that is incredibly important, and then just having that option is another big thing as well. But also, it's one of those things that you never know what next star might be sitting not doing much right now or in a different sport, and just having that opportunity to try, that in itself is a big thing too. So it's a big deal.
All right, so Gina Lawrence, director of Stingray Swim Club, said there is a cap for the scholarships being given this year, but said if it exceeds, her team will make considerations.
Right now we're trying to get a total of 25 athletes, but should we get more applicants that are meeting the requirements, we can see what we can do to accommodate those applicants as well. So we are very grateful to the Cayman Islands government, 4 ministries in particular: Ministry of Education and Training, Ministry of Caymanian Employment, Ministry of Youth, Sports, Culture and Heritage, and the Ministry of Health, Environment and Sustainability for funding this initiative with the Stingray Swim Club, because it has removed the barriers for Caymanian students in government schools to partake in an amazing swim club such as Stingray.
Removing the barriers and allowing kids to swim for an amazing swim club like Stingray Swim Club. Her words, not mine. The deadline to apply is this Sunday, May 31st. To apply or learn more, email headcoach@stingrayswimclub.ky. All right, after a 5-year hiatus, the Special Olympics Cayman Islands Beach Games made a return to public beach last week. The event brought together 45 athletes and 25 volunteers for a day of competition and celebration. The day's competitive action showcased talent across multiple sports, including football, bocce, running, and swimming. Speaking on the beach games, volunteer coach Steve Hardy said, "Our athletes were tested and each one of them delivered. The competition was fierce. They were prepared from their committed efforts all year and put on legendary performances." Nice to see the beach games back, and well done to all those athletes who made it possible. All right, Cayman Indy racer Kiffin Simpson gave his best efforts at the Indianapolis 500 and finished 14th in one of the most exciting races in history. The race won by Felix Rosenvist saw Simpson juggle positions 9 and 8 and 7 throughout the race. Ultimately, it was his Chip Ganassi's teammate Alex Pillow who finished 7th, which was the highest placement for Simpson's crew. But the real talk of the Indy 500 was that finish from Rosenvist, which came as a result of a call with around 70 laps remaining to shift off the regular pit strategy. Here's what Rosenvist had to say following his second 500 title.
Everything lined up. Pato was struggling with fuel, and we were pretty rich to the end. So I was like, this is going to be great. At some point, we're just going to pass him and hopefully cruise to the win. But then in the end, everything just flipped upside down. But you just have to reload. I was a little negative at first when it happened. I was like, yeah, of course this happens. Kind of like Long Beach. But then you just have to think forward. And actually good when I got back to third, because I felt like I was like hunting instead of being hunted, and it paid off.
Congratulations, Felix Rosenquist is your Indy 500 champion.
Felix Rosenquist is your Indy 500 champion, and it was well-deserved win for him. The ending of the race was absolutely incredible to see. All right, but before I go, I want to remind everyone that tomorrow is Mother's Day in Poland. Shout out to all the Polish mothers being celebrated tomorrow. That is it for sports. More news after breaks tonight.
Cayman Airways has launched its newest non-stop route connecting the Cayman Islands to the live music capital of the world, Austin, Texas. That is the Swanky Kitchen Band that was in the departure lounge at Owen Roberts International Airport on Sunday. Director of Tourism Rosa Harris says her team worked extensively to secure the Austin route, adding that air service development remains a key priority and critical to the survival of the tourism industry and the long-term resilience of the economy. That is all the time that we have for tonight. Thank you so much for joining us, and until next time, take care.